Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nala.
And I'm Faith.
And this is the Siren's Den breakdown, theories, and things you may have overlooked for episode 8 of WandaVision.
So, this is your official spoiler warning.
In this penultimate episode, we actually don't get a show where we're now watching the actual WandaVision existence unfold, and it's fun. We're getting into real Marvel territory.
Yeah. I think this is the first episode of the show that didn't divide itself between an A storyline and a B storyline. It stayed very focused on just this is what Wanda and Agatha are up to right now, and it's a lot. They went through quite a journey together, quite a soulful soul sister journey to each other.
Yeah, I like how in right before we get into the actual episode, we get the Marvel credit scene that goes from red to purple, which is, I think, wonderful because, that's Agatha's signature color. And we get more about Agatha in this episode as well, which I really was a fan of.
Yeah, it really kind of felt like that purple shift was just kind of the show's way of telling us that Agatha has officially taken over the reins here. She's the one running the show, and now we're just kind of along for the ride with it.
Definitely.
All right. So our first scene starts out in Salem, Massachusetts, around the time of the Salem witch trials. We see Agatha. She's being dragged away. We think that she's about to be burned at the stake for being a witch. However, it's revealed that it's actually her coven. And the reason that Agatha is about to be executed by them is because she was practicing forbidden magic. The coven tries to kill her with magic, but Agatha turns to be too strong and turns the spell around on them. And notably, the head witch of this coven reveals herself to be Agatha's mother and has just kind of decided that her daughter cannot be redeemed at this point, and has made the decision to execute Agatha.
This was an awesome opening scene. We got a younger Agatha Harkness, and I've always commended Marvel for their really good aging and de-aging special effects. I mean, both the special and visual effects really were on point this episode.
She looked like she was maybe 20 in that first scene. It was
yeah, and then obviously in the next scene we flash into present day. More on that in a second, but I love this scene for a lot of reasons, but namely seeing the witch, the head witch, the superior, fly up and have this like magical crown. I'm like, that was me being like, ooh, we're getting into the magic here. But also this was a really horrifying scene. The fact that she takes basically the witch's life forces, and including her mother's, including like, obviously she doesn't have that crown anymore. And we haven't seen Agatha wear this crown yet so far. But it definitely looks very familiar, almost Wanda familiar.
One thing that we do notice also because Agatha's mother, once she died, Agatha went over to her, and from her body, she took away the brooch that we've been seeing her wear in every episode. And I'm wondering what that means the brooch signifies. Is that maybe just some sort of status of rank? Is it a magic all on its own? Because clearly she made the point to take it, and I feel like it's going to be a little bit more than a personal detail.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that she wears it in every episode, and it's a Grim Reaper with two other skeletons with it, like it's spooky, but also I would not be surprised if it helped her magic, if it was maybe what amplifies it.
One thing I also found really interesting about the magic of this scene is it really felt different from the previous magic that we've seen in Marvel, the Doctor Strange sorcery. It's very, it almost feels like it's coming from a different source, and it's kind of its own different being and beast versus the sorcery magic. So I'm really excited to delve into the world of this kind of more traditional spooky witchcraft magic and what the deal with that is in the Marvel universe.
Totally. And speaking of witchcraft magic, we definitely get a good taste of Agatha's magic in this next scene when we flash to present day. back in the basement.
Agatha is kind of taunting Wanda, but also kind of questioning her, questioning why she's here, kind of saying things like, I've played around enough. How did you do it? Magic or Wanda tries to use magic on her, and first it's revealed that she can't read Agatha's thoughts. She's never been able to read Agatha's thoughts. That's just something Agatha is completely immune from. And secondly, Wanda can't use magic in this space at all because, as Agatha revealed, she put runes around the space, and only the witch who uses the runes can use magic, which is another really cool world building detail. She then kind of restrains Wanda and demos some different spells, things that Wanda has been doing on a massive scale. She demonstrates on a bug mind control and talks about how takes years to master the skill, and here you are doing it to a whole town. And then also illusions
on like a subconscious level.
Yeah, she turns the bug into a bird and goes Wanda about how she's transforming this town daily into different eras of TV. And one line I think she used, or that she did use, that I think was really good, was magic on autopilot.
So this is a great showcase of how strong Agatha is.
So one thing I thought was really notable about Agatha's motivation in the scene, and what might be her motivation for this whole deal, is she seems absolutely perplexed by Wanda. She mentions that she came here in the first place because she just sensed a colossal amount of magic being used at once. But she seems perplexed and annoyed by the fact that Wanda doesn't know what the witch's runes are and has no idea that that would limit her magic. She goes over these spells, these basic things on a bug that she says take years to master, and here's just Wanda doing it willy-nilly in the background.
Mm-hmm.
And it really feels like Agatha is really trying to get to the bottom of what is causing the source of this magic. Almost, I think, personally, out of curiosity, I think she wants to get stronger herself, so she wants to know what the source of this magic is so she can replicate it herself. And then obviously when she finds out what it is, maybe she can't do that. We'll get to that a little bit later, but I truly think that that's what Agatha's goal here is. I think she's just trying to find out what is going on. She was drawn here by this magic source, but she really doesn't know what is causing all this other than the fact that it's just some very powerful magic.
She just proves it more by taking us basically through the rest of this episode via doors. She plucks a hair off of Wanda's head and enchants something in Latin and then throws it to a door, and it opens into this next scene, which we find out takes place in Wanda's childhood home in Sokovia.
Yeah, we walk into the door and we see that we are in just Wanda's childhood home. We get to meet her parents a little bit, who are not the actors from the commercials.
Yeah, like we
Say that
originally
right now.
speculated.
We were not right in that one. We were very
Which,
confident
again,
about that one.
I was really hoping for it, but I mean, maybe that just means that they are someone else of importance, perhaps. Because the commercials aren't a necessary part. They're a gimmick that they use in this show. They don't have to do it, but they do. And it's the same actors every time. So like that might be something. But could they
that
be
casting
the
seems very specific. And also
Exactly.
from just like a business side of things more, I think that means you have to pay those actors a lot more. Just because I think that makes them featured in the series as opposed to just kind of a little bit of a walk-on role. So,
Exactly.
so there is a reason that they're doing this. We see them talk about there's fighting outside, but they're having a TV night in. It feels like the parents are really doing this to give their kids a good childhood and kind of keep this harsh world for them, which is absolutely tragic because they watched the Dick Van Dyke Show. Wanda picked it out because she loves sitcoms. She loves the crazy, as they put, shenanigans that they get into. And while they're watching, the Stark bomb blows up their apartment.
This was a lot. This was a heavy scene to start us off so early in the episode. But I love this because Agnes tells Wanda that it's her cue to enter this scene. And when we see the scene, we're seeing cute little baby Wanda, which I think says a lot and is really sad because this was her kind of just going back to the last truly like happy, everything was okay moment in her life before it all changed. But we also got a lot of other stuff, a lot of other questions asked because the Stark bomb does in fact fly into the apartment, but does not end up detonating.
Yeah, we see Wanda and Pietro hiding under the table, kind of talking about they can't leave this. They're staring at the bomb. They hear planes overhead and they're wondering maybe if it's they're here to help, maybe they're the ones who sent the bomb. And Wanda, she sees that the Dick Van Dyke Show is still playing on the TV and she can still watch it.
And
she kind of just
it's specifically the Walnut episode where it all was a dream. So she was basically trying to tell herself that this all was a dream. And it's so tragic and it's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. She kind of comes back out of it, and Agnes kind of comments on it that, "Wanda, you stopped that bomb." And Wanda was like, "No, no, I didn't. It was defective, and we didn't know that. We were there for 2 days." And then Agnes replies, "Yeah, you and your brother were in a collapsed house with a bomb for 2 days and came out absolutely fine."
Mm-hmm.
And
And the
it really just
and the probability of that TV staying on, I at first I didn't think about it, but now it's totally making sense because of all the things to completely be fine in this completely destroyed apartment, it's this TV. Of course it is. And it's continuing to play this episode more of that probability magic. After that, we go into our next door, which is a Hydra, top secret government looking door. And again, I love these transitions because it's just more to the art direction and art department. So we get to see kind of how Wanda got her official powers, which also I love this scene.
So we see Wanda, she comes in and she goes into the experiment that was done on her that was originally thought to be the thing that gave Wanda her powers. She walks into a room with Loki's staff. She states her name and the fact that she's a volunteer for the record. The doctors talk about how no one has survived this experiment accidentally with the microphone on. And then Wanda approaches the staff and the Mind Stone just kind of pops out of it. Like it's drawn to her almost. And she reaches out and she's just enveloped in this beautiful golden light and has this figure with a very specific and familiar silhouette come out and reach out and touch her, and she passes out on the ground.
Again, this scene was so good for so many reasons. One, the visuals were beautiful when the stone broke out from the shell encasing it in Loki's scepter. Was just amazing to watch. And then seeing that figure float down, obviously with this crown that we're now seeing, which could be a tie-in to that beginning scene. It's just it just gets you hyped. I liked the other parallels in this scene to the X-Men and the Phoenix series, and this is kind of Jean Grey level power. Like this is just super raw and just uncontrollable power. And the fact that the Mind Stone came out and, like you said, was drawn to her, I'm pretty sure no one else has had that happen.
I really like that because one thing I really didn't like about Marvel previously, it was what they did to Wanda's character and how she got that powers. I hated that she was a Hydra experiment. I thought I was just it felt like such a disservice and just more just plot justification more than anything else. And I really like that they kind of went back and are making it cool. It really feels like what they did with Thor 3 and the first 2 Thor movies, where they kind of made fun of the things that didn't work out and were objectively bad storytelling and bad decisions, and addressing things in the future and kind of improving upon it. And I dig it. I'm so happy with what they've done with the show and how they've really redesigned Wanda and how she's come from and where she's come from.
Totally. This was, again, a beautifully done scene. The makeup malnourished Wanda was, again, so chilling, especially since you see regular Wanda, present day Wanda, there in juxtaposition to how she used to be. So after she falls unconscious from seeing her future self, they take her back to her room, where she is sitting conscious again, and watching a TV show that is, again, very reminiscent of the style of TV that she was bringing to Westview.
I one thing I want to mention, I do think just a little notable line detail that I think adds some intrigue to Agnes, or I keep wanting to call her Agnes, but Agatha.
Mhm.
She's Agatha. It was Agatha all along. But because she kind of recaps what Wanda's been through in kind of a taunting, witchy way at the end of every one of these little therapy sessions that she's making Wanda go to. And in her recap here, she does bring up the fact that it was an Infinity Stone that gave Wanda her powers, which means that Agnes knew what an Infinity Stone was. Which I wonder if that's because she's been around for a few 100 years. She's
Mhm.
clearly really knows powerful sources of magic and what they do and where they come from, and is an expert in that. And I would consider the Infinity Stones magic. They're
Oh yeah,
absolutely magic rocks. But I
pretty
do,
magic rocks,
yeah.
forbidden magic rocks.
I don't know in the Marvel universe if the general public, if that was just released to everybody that, oh yeah, there was 6 magical rocks that have extreme power, and when the 6 of them are brought together, it can do so much. Like, did they have to have that press conference? Was there just some poor guy who had to explain to a traumatized Earth that that's what happened? Or is
Probably.
that still something that is just kind of kept under wraps, but Agatha happens to know about it because she's a crazy powerful witch? It's
I
really
think
not.
we probably just haven't seen maybe the last of the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, that is true. And really, it's probably details that don't matter at this point. I don't think really they thought that anyone in the audience would question that Agatha knows what an Infinity Stone is, because we all do at this point. So yeah, I thought it was notable that she called it an Infinity Stone, just because she's kind of established herself as this magical expert and authority, and I think that kind of furthered that. Whether it's deeper than that, probably not. We've just been looking so deep into things, it's hard not to at this point.
It's what we do. Sometimes we're right, sometimes we're not. So these doors are obviously important. Each one has a theme. She walks through 4 of them, a lot of breaking the fourth wall, a lot of meta stuff happening. But this scene, she willingly walks into this next room, which is kind of not what the case was in the beginning. Because this is a really sweet scene, essentially, when she falls in love with Vision. And Vision falls in love with her. It's another just heartbreaking scene with the power of foresight. And Wanda knows that because she's in the present looking at the past. And this was kind of good for her in a way, because she is getting to relive these moments again. And I do feel like they have helped her cope with what she's dealing with.
So it was a really quiet but subtle, powerful moment. It starts off with Wanda. She's in her bedroom watching Malcolm in the Middle, really just kind of trying to process the death of Pietro, which at this point was very recent. Vision kind of comes in, and Wanda invites him to stay and continue watching the sitcom with her. Uh, it's kind of it's this moment where Bryan Cranston's character, a roof collapses over his head after he's fixed something, and Vision asks if it's funny because of the grievous injury. Sorry, had a dyslexic moment there. I almost called it an industry. But Vision asks if the reason why it's funny is because he's seriously hurt. And Wanda replies, no, it's funny because it's not real. It's not that kind of show. The way that summarizes how this kind of hex, things that are happening in Wanda's psyche that made this hex what it is. Wanda explains that she can't deal with this grief, that it's just becoming too hard to move on with it. And then Vision gives her the beautiful line that maybe grief is just how love perseveres. And they they start smiling, they start laughing together, and you can really kind of see the bond and connection and trust that they start having each other really early on when they just barely knew each other. It was even such a beautiful moment that when they cut back, you can see Agatha wipe a tear from her eye.
No, this scene was very, very heartbreaking, because again, you can just see the moment that they start to fall for each other, and this is another moment she's watching a sitcom and she's feeling happy again. This definitely reminds her of her family, and I did like the humanizing part of Agatha wiping a tear away, because we were all wiping tears away here. Really, really heartwarming seeing this genuine moment of WandaVision before, any of this other stuff happened. This was just Wanda and Vision. And just seeing the genuine connection and the genuine love they have for each other was very, very beautiful in this scene. And, the fact that he made her smile again when, in these past visions she's had, he hasn't, she hasn't been smiling. She's been going through a lot of trauma. And this is not a traumatic moment. This is just a sweet moment that really gave you an insight at how much she has lost. You also see Agatha kind of push her a little bit more, because she's like, your parents are dead, your brother is dead, and now Vision is dead. And Wanda looks back and no one's on the bed anymore.
Agatha leads Wanda through the last door, which takes Wanda to the Sword headquarters. She is at a front desk, very more patient than we've seen her throughout the series, waiting to hear back from someone on when she can receive or retrieve Vision's body to give him his last rites, to give him a proper funeral. She is his next of kin, as he says, and that's what she's here to do. She's not here to steal him and bring him back to life. She's here to give him just a proper human last hurrah.
I love the security guard at the beginning being like, oh my God, this is an Avenger and I literally cannot do what she wants. This is not a situation I ever thought I'd be in. But eventually Hayward says that she can come back. And you see that Wanda and Hayward have met in the past, and that he didn't just come because of this anomaly. He has already, provoked her in the past. So she says, they talk a little bit, and then he didn't so much provoke her, but I honestly, what he does with the rest of the scene, it makes sense why she kind of went off the deep end. He says he's going to show her Vision's body. They look down at the laboratory and she sees him completely dismantled. It's not a fun thing to see, especially coming from that scene we just did where he was very much alive and they were very much in love, to now this is post grief Wanda, or like post losing someone Wanda, and we've seen what she's been through already, and we've seen what this is going to be like for her.
Yeah, and this really is, I think, just shows how smarmy Tyler is, because we see here that Wanda she didn't come to steal the body. When she does break the windows, it's kind of this brief rage moment, and Tyler waves everyone back like, it's fine. Let her do what he wants to do, because he wants her to go be doing this. He wants her to go in there and try and bring her back to life. And I think it just really says a lot that he later used this ammunition, that is a lie, in fact, that she broke into the Sword headquarters and stole Vision's body, just to kind of further his own agenda. And it really shows that everything that he's told his team, that he's told Monica and Jimmy when he was there, was basically a lie to further some sort of an agenda. You really cannot, and it really kind of goes back to any interaction we've had with him. We can't trust what he says, because he is two-faced at his nature.
No, I absolutely agree. And I thought this scene was very eye-opening, because the way it was presented to us in the beginning was Wanda was completely angry. She busted open the doors. She broke the window. And then the feed cuts out. But, she stole the body. When in reality, she just burst open the doors after being let in legally. she broke the window because, she was just super upset by seeing Vision's dismantled body. And then she left. She went to Vision, because she understood that Tyler wasn't going to let $3 billion worth of vibranium just sit in the ground. And, no power can bring him back online, as he says. So she goes down to see Vision for herself. And again, this is one of the scenes that I hope wins Elizabeth her Emmy, because she was beautiful in this scene when she scans Vision essentially and she says, "I can't feel you."
Yeah.
And that scene, and she says it over and over again, and that scene broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
She was so sad, and this is just something that she has dealt with in the past. And she just didn't expect it to ever happen to Vision, because he wasn't like a human. He's specifically an android. Like, he shouldn't die. Here he is, and she can't feel him. And oh my God, is it devastating. So, I mean, I appreciate him letting her down there to grieve, but his current attitudes towards her, like, he knows that she left to Westview alone, and then suddenly this whole anomaly happens, and he's like, is it not a coincidence that she left and created this powerful, grid, this hexagon thing?
It
Put
also
two and two
really
together.
makes me question about I don't think he has the interest of the people in Westview's mind at all, because the fact
Mhm.
that we still have the Vision's body, whatever is in there is not the Vision. That is incredibly important to know, especially because they're solving a Avengers level threat. Knowing that something in there isn't actually an Avenger and is some unknown something else, when you're sending a team in there and trying to solve and fix a situation, it feels like that is important information. And the fact that he lied it and framed it specifically to look like that Wanda broke into an institution and took something that she didn't, it feels more like a justification to do whatever he is about to do to this town.
So, I mean, that already just plants the seed of, what did happen to Vision's body and who is this Vision that she's created. Before we leave this scene, I do want to point out that when she says that she can't feel him, it's a direct response and parallel line to what he tells her, because they both come from the Mind Stone and they both do have this inseparable bond, which, you see more of in this next scene when she leaves and she takes a car and sees a note on in her passenger side and goes to these coordinates in Westview. And I thought this part was very interesting because you see Westview before everything happened, and it's not the happy-go-lucky town we've always seen it as.
I would say a state of shell shock. Everyone, like, no one looked like necessarily like, oh, that guy, he looks like he's just really sad right over there. But everyone just kind of
Mhm.
seemed kind of like distant and kind of going through the motions. We see Kitty from that '70s show, Mrs. Hart. I don't remember what her real person name was. It was a throwaway line in episode 4. She sees Wanda drive by and she gives like a little bit of a smile, but then just her gaze seems to be somewhere else. We see a little bit of Herb. No one in this town necessarily seems to be like they're having the best time of their lives until someone's about to ruin it.
I think it is interesting to point out that the snap back just recently happened for a lot of these people, including people in Westview. Like, you pass by all these boarded up shops and overgrown pools, and it has really, what else is supposed to happen after losing half of your town's population? And now every, like, half that population came back. So, she's also seeing and feeding off of, I guess, everyone else's grief in that town, which kind of just continues to amplify her own. But I loved seeing all these characters and how they were living.
And Wanda eventually drives to where she's going to, and it is this empty house plot. She opens the letter, and it is a note from Vision. It is a deed for this property, and it is a place for them to grow old in. And Wanda reads this and looks at the plot with no house on it of the land that could have been, and that's when the magic happens, baby. She
Ooh,
breaks down, and
ooh.
red chaos magic, it's chaos magic, we learn, by the way,
Mhm.
explodes out of her. We see it at first, it creates the house that they live in the property, and then from there it grows once more and envelops the town, and we get to see everything transform into how it looks like in the 50s, and that's what creates Vision.
I also loved this scene because of her powerful acting. We get another glimpse into just how literally heartbroken she is. And I do like to point out that there is a heart on the deed where Vision says to grow old in, with a heart around it. And immediately when she creates this house and this reality, it brings us into the first episode of WandaVision. And the whole plot point of that episode was the heart on the calendar. So I think that was very, very cute and subtle. But also, just the visual effects on this were fantastic. Just creating the house, just showing how dang powerful she is. We already saw a little bit in Age of Ultron when Pietro died, and she just totally decimated those robots around her. But this is that on a crazier scale.
Yeah, no, I think this is just, it was really the birth of Wanda as a super powerful Nexus being in that moment. I think
And
that was
she lifts up very much, like the phoenix. It shows how powerful she is, creating the house, coming back, and then pulsing again and creating the rest of the town.
hmm
Like
I
she could
thought,
have done it all at the same time, but she did it in waves.
yeah, earlier in the episode when she was talking to Vision, that is how she described what the grief feeling like. That it felt like this wave that kept crashing and hitting her over and over. So just to see it kind of like not come out in one bolt or one pulse, to see it and just over and over and another one.
Mhm.
Just in the way that she described how the grief was hitting her. I thought that that's such a cool visual detail, and just really again goes to show how much love and was put into the craft of the show.
For the fact that she did take 4,000 people hostage is still a problem. Even though she was grieving, she still took over this town.
Because one of the things that I think was notable about the magic is I don't think this is something that Wanda did intentionally. I think this was just her
Oh
grief
yeah, no, exactly. That's
manifest. Yeah.
why she says, I don't remember how I did it. I don't think she intended to do this because we have seen how powerful she is. In fact, when it cuts back, the whole scene is in black and white. It takes us into that first episode, and we see her literally creating Vision.
Just the look on her face, because we see her create Vision. She's looking at him. He's in his 50s getup. Everything's black and white except her. And then she steps into it, and we cut back to her, and it's this gorgeous shot of her in her 50s outfit, smiling as she sees Vision. She looks so happy.
Love it. And I think it's interesting to know that when she did this, she basically became like every person she put under mind control. She became this character. She's now playing this part. It all feels like as much of a haze to her, as it does to everyone else in this town. Of course, she snaps out of it eventually.
And it just, yeah, it was really cool getting to see the origin of just this super Nexus powered being, and someone who's going to be very prominent in what's going to happen next in Marvel. Which brings us to Agatha taunting Wanda in a sound studio stage. She looks up and sees the lights. Agatha claps briefly and says bravo before disappearing, and we hear Wanda's kids just start screaming to help, to because they're in trouble, and Wanda goes to rescue them. And something I think was notable about this was because after Agatha saw how this came into being, what the origin was, what specifically this magic is, her whole attitude towards Wanda totally changed. She went from being very kind of taunting, really trying to goad her into finding out what this magic is, kind of out of this almost excited curiosity, to hostile now. Like, it went from, I want to, like, where's this magic coming from? I need to know, to, you are a threat. And just to see that shift in her character and what that means for how powerful Wanda is, because as we've seen, Agatha is super crazy powerful herself. So to see her suddenly be this hostile towards Wanda.
Now, this scene obviously takes us into the end of the episode. She looks out and you see the set and the studio audience. And I thought this was an interesting nod, because in the comics there's a version of Wanda's kids that only exist when she thinks about them. And so far it's been like every time she has thought about them, they have called out for help. So I'm wondering if, that's definitely something that they're going to be playing around with. She runs out, and this is basically the end of the episode. We finally see Agatha's full witch costume and full witch makeup, and ooh, she looks great.
Mm-hmm. Ah,
Love her
just
look.
yeah, she looks so sleek. We see that Agatha has the kids by the neck with like magic ropes, and Wanda is like trying to comfort them that it's going to be okay, while also trying to figure out, oh God, how do I take this out? And Agatha is talking to Wanda, and some of the most just important information that we get in the show. She's saying things like, "You aren't supposed to exist. You are supposed to be this myth or legend that has that we've never seen before. That you are able to create something from nothing, and you're using it to play breakfast for dinner." She
Mm.
straight up tells Wanda that she's dangerous, and we get our name drop because she says that makes you the Scarlet Witch.
Fue, 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 fue.
Remember
We got
in,
it. We
wasn't it
got it.
episode 4 when like Jimmy was like or no, it was Hayward who's like, do we have a name for her? Like, she doesn't have
Yeah.
an Avengers name, so that's why
Mhm.
she's a bad guy. Which he's such a tool. This is our every episode we have to have our Tyler Hayward hate hour, and this is it. This is the Tyler hour. This is the Tyler Hayward hate hour.
And I thought it was interesting because again, we're in the real world now. This whole episode was in Letterbox, and we actually don't have a please stand by at the end. I'm still a little iffy on why Agatha has the kids hostage, specifically by the neck. Like, if she was trying to keep them safe from Wanda, then that would be a different story. But it seems like she is scared of what Wanda has also created by creating the kids,
Yeah. And
because she
earlier,
also just drummed them up into existence.
yeah, and earlier in the episode, the kids having the kids hostage and was what Agatha used to make Wanda go through this magic therapy session in the first place by saying, "I'm the one who has the kids in the basement," and we did hear them call out for help then too. Like I said, I think this is really a shift in how Agatha has treated Wanda. Like, just in that moment, the moment she found out what Wanda is and the magic that she's capable of, her whole perspective and how she treats Wanda changed, because I genuinely think that she's afraid of Wanda and what she's capable of. I think she went into this town thinking she'd find some new cool way for magic, and now it's this mythological destructo goddess witch that isn't supposed to exist. That's what I'm dealing with here. Like, I think this is like a few power levels more than what she thought she'd be dealing with.
She, like, having seen her at the beginning and what she was capable of, the fact that she's scared of Wanda just is more telling to how powerful Wanda truly is. And Wanda can use her powers now, so I'm expecting to see a dope fight at the end.
I think the reason she stashed the kids away in the first place, because as we saw, she was tired of playing pretend in sitcom land. She wants to get to the bottom of this. The kids are good leverage for that. And I think, because earlier we were saying that maybe she wants Wanda to have kids because she's going to eat the kids and take the power, or all these theories. And I think it's just as simple as
She wasn't the one causing the for the children and all that, but she was just using the kids as leverage. She's a crafty witch. She's a crafty gal,
Mhm.
taking advantage of anything that she can.
I think she's also trying to, coax Wanda to maybe using her full potential, because maybe she wants to do what she did to her mother. If she does try to overpower her, I think she is going to try to siphon some of her magic.
Actually, that brings me a good thought because Agatha, as we've seen, has been alive since the Salem witch trials. And in the first
Mhm.
scene, we did see her literally suck this life force out of people. So when she sensed this, again, colossal amount of spells just being used on autopilot at once, she went, "Oh,
Mhm.
cool! This could like keep me off good for a couple
Jackpot.
jackpot. Like I can just kind of slowly siphon off of this, and it's fine for." Or like how is this happening? What's the source of this? And that's why she wants to get to what the source of how Wanda was able to do that, because probably that's so she can feed off of that source.
But now it seems like she's kind of bitten off a little more than she can chew. I mean, I'm wondering if this is going to be, Highlander style, where she's wanting there can only be one, and is wanting to defeat Wanda, or if we'll potentially see this as, an allyship to form. So this brings us to our second end or mid-credit scene, because now we've reached present day where Marvel movies exist, and this is a common thing. So this end credit scene I thought was pretty awesome, and I'm intrigued to see where this goes.
See Tyler, he's in his new tent. He's like, "Oh," come up to him and they're like, "All right, sir, we're ready to start it." And he's like, "Finally," because he's a jerk. He goes into the tent and we see the drone that they previously used to try and take out Wanda, that she'd gone out of the hex and just thrown back at their faces. It still was
Mhm.
pulsing with her red chaos magic. And Tyler's like, "We all we needed to do was do magic from the source."
So I thought a thing that was interesting is he was told that the launch was ready. So of course you think it might be a missile, but no, you see them being vague and saying they're going to siphon the energy, especially since Hayward is looking at this specific spot in the hexagon, which seems to be like a weak point of entry for them. He's like, all right, let's go and check out our asset, which leads us to our big reveal of the episode, which is pretty dope. They start siphoning the power out.
We see it's powering white vision. The chaos magic is powering white vision.
So White Vision is essentially Vision without the personality. He is Vision down to the basics of him, which are a robot. And he's, devoid of all color, hence, being called White Vision. I think he looks really, really cool as White Vision. I'm very excited to see double visions.
I I hope this means we're gonna get a vision fight.
I hope so too. I'm wondering if he's gonna enter the hex as colored vision. If he's still gonna be changed when he goes through, or if
Yeah,
they really did find like a hole that he can pass through unharmed.
Tyler doesn't make smart decisions. He's powering his super weapon.
I mean, this opens up a lot of possibilities. I'm intrigued to see if this comes to be like a Vision Spider-Man meme where Vision finally meets up with Wanda and is like, "I'm Vision," and the other Vision's like, "But I'm Vision." So I think this is just a little funny to me though, because we are in the penultimate episode before the finale, and we only have one more episode to see who this actor Paul Bettany was talking about having wanting wanting to play alongside them for so long, and I'm wondering if it's just another Paul Bettany.
Wouldn't it be? That would be so funny if Paul Bettany's
I
like, "There's
would
a guy I've always wanted to
absolutely
act with. It's me. I'm amazing."
I would not put it past him, and I would absolutely love that. I think that would be very, very funny. It would be the ultimate troll moment. It would be so good. But I'm excited to see where White Vision goes, especially since he's now imbued with some of that chaos magic. And he is obviously a vision that they brought back to life. not with, the Mind Stone, but if the vision that's in the hex can't leave, but now there's a vision out of the hex, I don't know, maybe she might find another way to fuse them together again.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how it wraps up. I'm really curious to see if there is, because these last few episodes they've revealed a lot and they've been a lot of twists and turns that we haven't expected, and I'm really curious to see what more twists and turns they have up their sleeves, if there is going to be some secret final villain that we're going to get introduced to, or
Mhm.
if all the players are set. I really hope that we are able to wrap up things at least a decent amount at the end of the series, because as we know, it is going to be a limited series. There's not going to be a season 2, which I love the show and I would love a season 2, but I really like the limited storytelling form that they're doing with it.
Mhm.
And I think they've been so spot on with the pacing and
Each other, it's going to be dope stuff. I hope they bring in another villain, because this all ties into Doctor Strange too.
Mhm.
So I hope that we get just that nugget of anticipation. And I'm excited to see what the credit scene is going to be for the final episode.
Yeah, I agree with everything I said. There's really nothing I can recap that isn't just exactly what you said.
Well, tune in next episode as we finally watch the series finale of this super, super amazing show, which is
Ugh.
going to have me in tears. I'm so upset
It's
already.
been such a fun ride.
It's been a blast. It's been so fun.
Tell us what you thought of episode 8 in the comments, or send us an email at sirensdenpodcast@gmail.com. Every week on our Facebook page, we do a spoilerless GIF review where us and our fans all just post GIFs that sum up the episode that, if you haven't seen the episode, would not make sense. It's been so fun. The ones that people have been commenting have been so funny. So participate in that. Join the fun.
Thank you to Ty, our producer, and to Sean Thomas at fuzzstudio.com for our theme song.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.